Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Eugene Safanov, and I'm part of the marketing team at Perficient. I am excited to be moderating today's webinar, the ROI on transforming credit and lending customer outreach. First things first, if you're having trouble hearing this session, please make sure your volume is turned all the way up. If you're having other issues, feel free to drop me a line in the chat box. We are recording today's session, so you will have another opportunity to watch this webinar. We will email you with information on how to access this recording within the next 2 business days. And finally, time permitting, we will answer questions at the end of this session. If you have any during today's presentation, please feel free to enter those in the questions box. In a moment, I'll hand it over to our speakers, but first, let me give you a quick overview of Perficient. Perficient is a leading global digital consultancy with unparalleled strategy and technology capabilities. We have numerous locations across the United States and Europe, as well as nearshore and offshore delivery centers in regions such as Latin America and India. Founded in 1997, we're a public company that's traded on the NASDAQ, and we have approximately 6,500 employees. We have strategic partnerships with major technology vendors and also have dedicated solution and industry practices. One of these industry practices is, of course, financial services. This slide shows our depth of experience. You can see that we've worked with hundreds of financial services organizations across various sub-industries. You'll also notice the diverse set of capabilities we have, which really enable us to support our clients end to end. All right, now that I've covered the housekeeping items and told you a little bit about Perficient, I'd like to turn the call over to today's speakers, Scott Albahari and Byron Gifford.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Albahari. I'm a chief strategist in the financial services group, and really my role is to help tailor our products and services to the financial services industry and really bring the industry domain knowledge and expertise to our delivery teams, our sales teams, and help our clients navigate the trends and the challenges that they face.
And hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Byron Gifford, and I'm a lead business consultant at Perficient and working in the financial services industry, focused on collections process optimization and digital transformation for banks, credit unions, and other credit providers. I've worked in the banking industry for the past 27 years, primarily focused on collections and loss mitigation for all consumer loan portfolios, leading their collections departments and supporting functions. I've had the opportunity to work for PNC, HSBC Bank, Discover, and Chartway Federal Credit Union, and helped them achieve just incredible results. So with that said, let's go ahead and move into our webinar today. So Forrester research says that banks must focus on customers' financial well-being, revamp their collections journeys, and advance their debt management solutions. And this is more relevant today than ever. The current state of our financial well-being in the nation is shifting dramatically. We see it in the news and online daily with new articles being produced constantly. This is really the time to ensure that your company's solution offerings for your customers in need are easily accessible and well advertised in all of your messaging. Optimization or optimizing and transforming your customer outreach are big goals. They take time, and when we work with teams of people, we're the experts in helping you guys navigate the approach and help you drive the change. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about digital collections transformation and how to remodel your customer outreach approaches. We're going to discuss some of our capabilities and our unique approach. We're going to touch on our exclusive complimentary workshop for all registrants of this webinar. So be sure to stick around for that. We'd love to hear from you when we get to Q&A. And then certainly we're going to close in time for you to resume supporting your customers and mitigating losses. Why now? Customer contact engagement preferences have shifted, but has your contact center evolved with it? You probably already know this, or you've read it on multiple websites, but we know firsthand from helping banks better understand their customers by developing what's called personas. Personas help you truly understand your customer demographic and how to better serve them from a customer experience. So leveraging your unique personas is key in improving and elevating the overall customer experience that must translate to how you perform your collections process. The CFPB recognizes that new technology can be useful, and while guidelines around newer technologies aren't very prescriptive, establishing a consistent use and program is important. Next, as I mentioned, the financial well-being in the US is shifting. Price increases are everywhere we turn, from Starbucks to streaming services and even Amazon Prime subscriptions. We've all read it, gasoline's over $4 a gallon nationally, and it's really expected to further increase, and it's very unfortunate. Consumers ended 2021 with record levels of debt, leading into a year now where interest rates are expected to rise substantially. And the significant levels of debt are starting to reflect in delinquencies. Most credit card companies have seen month-over-month deterioration for the last 4 months and are expected to further worsen. So finally, infusing empathy, also here, in a debt collections customer outreach situation is the key ingredient and results in a mutual win for the customer and the financial institution. And we're going to talk more about that topic shortly. Scott, why don't you tell the audience about one of the industry's biggest challenges? Scott, I think you're on mute.
I apologize for that. Thanks, Byron. So Byron spoke a little bit about the specific reasons why now is a good time for financial institutions to look to modernize their collections functions. And it's really any institution that does first-party collections. So it's not just banks, it's auto finance companies, it's mortgage companies, anybody who's collecting money from consumers. And namely, inflation and consumer debt levels, as well as new regulations, are really the driving factors that's making this a hot topic now. We do believe that collections volumes will increase through 2022, but we don't think the way to deal with this volume is to do more of the same old thing. Financial institutions are facing a perfect storm in terms of increased collection volumes and increased customer expectations. Many of your customers who will go into default in the coming months are not the traditional default customer type and probably not the type of customer you want to lose. This will be a very new experience for a lot of them. Many will be confused and not well informed, and the ways that you interact and communicate with them will either cement their loyalty going forward or cause them to seek out your competitors. And we believe that financial institutions that humanize the collections process will create new value for existing and future customers. As I mentioned on the previous slide, doing more of the same old thing isn't a way to lower charge-offs in this environment. And here we're presenting some industry statistics that, based on our work with our clients, are very accurate. And what they show is a significantly greater likelihood to receive full or partial payment as new communications channels are added to the contact strategy. However, even the best collection shops struggle with how to mix and match communication channels against customer preferences to optimize success, and typically dropping them after 30 days and falling back to the same old traditional calls and letters. Really, the quantum leap in benefits happens when financial institutions can match individual contact preferences to the channels used to communicate with them, and personalize messages based on risk factor, credit score, days past due, customer value or loyalty, and other factors and other data that you have in your organization, which all banks and financial institutions do on a day-to-day basis on the marketing side of the organization. We are digital marketing experts and are helping our clients better segment their delinquent populations and target personalized messages to each segment using techniques routinely used in the customer acquisition function. So what this really is a way to leverage expertise in the organization in order to apply it to the back end of the customer lifecycle. And as we know, a successful multi-channel contact strategy doesn't just happen. It requires solid data management and orchestration, as well as real-time or near real-time decision-making. Each organization we work with is at different levels of maturity, and we focused our work on developing self-funding approaches to modernization and transformation. This requires a thorough understanding of the desired customer experience, required capabilities, and investments across people, process, and technology to support a collection strategy that delivers incremental benefits over time. So I do want to stress that what we really are talking about is not replacing technology or bringing new systems into an environment. What we're talking about is optimizing the technologies and the organization that you currently use, and looking for areas where slight improvements in either process, training people, or pieces of technology can bring huge value to the organization. So I'll give it back to Byron. He's going to take us through these strategy elements now.
Thanks, Scott. So these are the elements for a digital collections transformation. Now, they're not ordered because while all are needed, financial institutions take different approaches in some cases to really establishing disciplines and strengths in some areas, but really require maybe support in others. So in the upper left, you'll see digital capabilities. Expanding your digital capabilities is key to not only engage your customer in their channel of choice, but to keep them in that channel to promote call deflection. Different customer types or personas, as I mentioned earlier, prefer to engage with their institution in different ways. And so we believe that you should work towards layering technology. We've talked with several of the nation's largest banks, and while they've added many different technology solutions, they themselves have indicated that adoption and interaction rates could be higher. So as Scott kind of talked about briefly, I want to mention that at Perficient, we are not selling out-of-the-box system solutions and software. We're solution integrators. And so as we work and help you with your current technology infrastructure, we can help you introduce new technologies if you have a blaring need, but ultimately we focus on helping you drive efficiencies in how you perform the function. Now, our team has led collections departments for some of the largest banks in the nation. So we bring that expertise to you. We help you build in optimization and we support your transformation. And we'll have a few case studies throughout today's webinar that we're going to share today. So next up, let's talk about segmentation. This is an area that's really a bit of an art. Customers have different behaviors and risk levels. So the days of only sequencing activity based on days past due really must change. You can begin to predict delinquency and communicate proactively to prevent delinquency. So think about it. How much money could you save by avoiding hundreds or thousands of calls monthly, which is the largest cost in a collections contact center environment? In some cases, it's going to be enough to help self-fund expanding your digital capabilities. Sequencing. In the lower left, as I stated, segments behave differently, and it can require a sophisticated approach to sequencing your automated touch points or technology and call strategy. So sequencing that can adapt through AI and allow you to hyper segment customer populations. So imagine an individualized approach for each individual. In the upper right is personalization. Are you still sending out static communications to all customers based on just days past due? And are your collection calls scripted and built on old principles? Or have they been updated to humanize the approach? We're going to cover that topic today during the session as well. Process optimization. Digital collections is a must, but really, are your processes operating efficiently? Are they operating audit-free and maximizing the potential of the function before you're adding and layering in new technology? We believe that you should optimize the foundation of your home before adding the new addition. And then finally, reporting and analytics. How can you set goals and forecasts if you aren't adequately measuring every process and functions related to those goals. The power of these insights really help take you to the next level. It's more than just technology. As stated, optimizing the process is paramount. And we're currently working with a top 50 bank where we're focused on enhancing and optimizing, and they're experiencing incredible returns and result improvements for all of their key performance indicators. So when we begin layering technology solutions, they're going to begin to experience next level results compared to forecasts that they've targeted for 2022. These are 15 elements of an optimal collections operation. So to support the time that we have today, I'm only going to highlight a few, but go ahead and review this list and jot down what you notice as it relates to areas that you have great strength and elements that you identify with a targeted opportunity. When we engage with financial institutions, this is an exercise that really highlights areas of focus. So let's look at number 7. This is an area that we're going to talk about here shortly. Collection calls, they're always going to be needed. And many customer types prefer to engage still one-to-one with a human. This element, as I mentioned, is really driving to humanize your approach and infuse empathy versus just trying to collect the payment. Number 13 is hold individuals, teams, and the department accountable to deliver all levels. So when we look at accountability, personally, every team that I have walked in and started to lead, accountability was always an initial opportunity that I would identify, and one that requires great focus. Not all of your staff will be able to adapt to the changes, but holding people accountable really must be a priority to ensure that you're progressing. It requires great leadership to build a culture that holds themselves and every individual accountable to deliver on job expectations. I believe that you need to cultivate the skill and layer in setting progressive targets and celebrating the wins to ensure that you have an engaged and hardworking group. One particular team that we're working with right now, they've asked us to shadow agent coaching sessions to help develop their supervisors and raise the bar. Again, holding their supervisors accountable as well as the team. It's proven that it's working very well for them. Here are some solutions and results related to process optimization. In a very short period of engaging with a collections group, we can identify areas of low-hanging fruit, and in many cases requires little to no technology investment. Because I and my team have a tremendous wealth of collections operations experience, we work with financial institutions to create solutions that frankly haven't had the resources or time to commit to. So let's talk about the first one, payment arrangement conversion, or PTP conversion rates, as some may call it. This client required a complete overhaul of their call model. They had a lot of room for growth. The effort and the partnering that we provided was developing their new call model, creating the training materials for them, and facilitating the new training to the entire department. And as you can see and read here, the results of their efforts were amazing. So are any of these areas ones that you've highlighted to drive improvement for 2022? Scott, can you lead us into capabilities and approach?
Absolutely, thank you. So we've talked a little bit about digital transformation in the collection space, that it's more than just multi-channel contacts. It's more than just technology. It requires a balanced approach. But even when we focus on technology, our experience indicates that collection shops that have implemented a lot of technology and have invested in a lot of technology, they may have payment portals, they may be using email, text, chat in addition to the telephone. They may be using mobile and online banking alerts. Even these organizations struggle to achieve the adoption rates they thought they would, in effect leaving unrealized value on the table for the investments they have made. And really what we talk about when we talk about technology in the collection space is really 4 key capabilities. These are the capabilities an organization needs to successfully transform its collections functions. And what we're really talking about are journey science, artificial intelligence and machine learning, data analytics, and interaction management. As Byron mentioned earlier, our customers have taken different approaches to maturing their capabilities in these areas, in some cases establishing disciplines and strengths in some or all of them, and in other cases looking to partners or service providers for support. These are core capabilities of Perficient, and we are happy to assist our customers in whatever level of support they require. We'll focus on journey science and interaction management during today's webinar due to time constraints, but of course, we're always happy to continue conversations with any of you afterwards. Journey science combines traditional research-based insights and with data-driven evidence through a cycle of continuous optimization. Data gets fed back into personas and journeys to refine them, and additional research insights inform solutions that can be measured through data and analytics. The real differentiator is that these are not static customer journey documents. These are dynamic. And when you bring these two components together, journey mapping and continuous insights to optimize solutions, you get a much more powerful understanding of what's going on in your customer's mind and how that evolves over time. Journey science really relies on these capabilities, being able to do research, data analytics, customer segmentation, journey design, predictive modeling, and experimentation. And certainly what we found is that a lot of collection shops are good at some, but not necessarily all of them. And even those that are venturing into the predictive modeling and data analytics realm are, it's new for almost everybody, and it's certainly new for a lot of collection shops. So we're really at the beginning and taking the first footsteps on the maturity scale in terms of, as an industry, in terms of maturing the analytics and predictive modeling, and even the segmentation portions of these. So when we think about what our capabilities are on the marketing side and starting to apply some of those to the collection side, that's really where we see the uplift from a value perspective. We define customer journeys for the collections process with as much rigor as we would for the customer acquisition process. This is fundamental to gaining the insights you'll need to optimize channel contacts and personalize messaging, which really are the foundational building blocks for an improved collections function. Personas help identify and understand the target audience segments. Experience maps help identify key stages of engagement, and customer journeys defines interactions, gaps, and opportunities. It's not necessary to start from scratch when embarking on a journey science work effort for a collections group. While there are differences between customer acquisition and collections, we have found that for those clients with established personas and journeys for their marketing efforts, we are able to augment, refine, and adapt those to the collection space, thus allowing everyone in the organization to speak about customers using a common framework. A final note, journey maps can be flexible and look at the customer journey from a transactional, life cycle, or outcomes-based perspectives. Now, Byron's going to spend a little bit of time describing how we translated journey science into concrete results for our clients.
Thanks, Scott. Earlier, we touched briefly on sequencing when sharing the elements of a digital collections transformation. So we're going to discuss this important component next. Next slide, please. Leverage your customers' contact preferences and stage your interactions to drive a mutual servicing win. So do you know your customer's contact preferences? Because if you do, it can be really powerful. So it's been proven, as Scott indicated earlier, that interacting with consumers in their channel of choice will drive higher contact rates and higher payment conversion. This is an example of how multiple contact channels can be layered from pre-delinquency in the upper left with the -5 in black, layered all the way through to charge-off represented in the far right of 180. So charge off being in this example, 180 days past due. So optimal contact sequencing increases your successes in the early stages of delinquency. So really, what is your cost per call? It's probably between $5 and $7 per call when an agent takes that call. So it's time to reimagine your customer relationships and user journeys to design an effortless experience design across digital touchpoints and interaction modalities. Then by layering in a structured, sophisticated sequencing, you can drive higher adoption rates, interaction, and self-serve payment rates. You'll see in the lower left a hearty list of automated touch points. Those can be many times deployed cheaper than calling, and you don't have to implement them all. But how many do you employ today as part of your own strategy from a collections perspective? So it's really time to build and leverage these because call restrictions have tightened and customers have a different preferred way of interacting with their bank. So to close out this slide, when we help financial institutions with sequencing, we introduce and layer in calling after they've really allowed the technology channels to resolve the easy cases. On our journey today, now that we've introduced technology and sequencing, it's really time to discuss your agent-assigned workflow design. Is that optimal? When was the last time you assessed your process, and are you challenging your performance levels to improve? We're seeing workflow designs that during the pandemic became somewhat complacent. Volumes have been dramatically lower, and agents moved to working remote. But some of the productivity standards and the results also took a dip. So we provide current state assessments of workflow designs and develop detailed future recommendations that include layouts, production expectations for levels of delinquency, and forecasted benefits. And on the right side of the slide is really the leadership mindset. These are 4 questions that really should be at the top of mind with line level supervisors and managers as they operate their day. On the next slide here, this is our approach to helping develop the optimal workflow design: people, process, and tools. And I know this term may be overused, but our approach isn't. We assess all aspects of the current design, front to end, bumper to bumper, and we provide an explicitly detailed roadmap and vision as to how change can occur and what results you can expect to achieve. So here's a success story where we worked with a super community bank to help them optimize their workflow design. We conducted the full assessment and we helped them rebuild their flow. We supported all communication aspects to ensure that everyone in the department was focused on the result that they wanted to achieve. You'll see the benefits at the bottom of the slide. It says the bank increased agent productivity by 46% and reduced monthly delinquencies by $3.4 million. Just by looking at it differently and considering a different way. So we identified many key drivers that were really limiting their performance, and through implementation, they are realizing those benefits. So now that your workflow in our story today has been optimized, how's your communication strategy? And when was the last time you revisited how you engage your customers? Let's discuss humanizing the conversation. This element is directly related to personalization. So not only your calls, I'm talking about how you communicate through all of your technology channels. You'll see on this slide, it says that every creditor wants their balance paid to prevent a loss. And the collection agent who makes the customer the #1 priority is the one who will get paid first every time. That is so true. My career began as a full-time collector on the phone 40 hours a week. And I excelled at my job because I focused on this, not the incentives or rewards. That all came. But the customer, focusing on the customer and helping them. And my promise to pay conversion hovered around 90%. Customers chose to pay me over other creditors. And when you create a culture where your collectors are hyper customer experience focused, it results in a mutual win. So one incredible and powerful skill is infusing empathy within the conversation. Agents with empathy understand what your customers feel, right? And they're compassionate towards them. Empathy helps agents provide an experience in which the customers feel respected, understood, and supported. And when customers hear their feelings reflected, it gives them confidence that you can see the problem as just being as important as they do. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Mr. Smith, how can I support you and your family during this time of need? Mrs. Johnson, my goal is to serve you and ensure that you have all the information needed to make the best decision for your family. And Ms. Gonzalez, I can see how that would be frustrating, but we're here for you. By using those, I guarantee you're going to experience improvements in loan loss rates and significantly increase your customer loyalty. The 4 boxes on the right are the questions that all of your collectors should be asking themselves as they perform their jobs to execute at the highest level. So next, let's talk about how you can improve other areas of the collections conversation. So can you relate with any of these actual sound bites? There we go, thanks, Scott. Sound bites from calls that we hear when working with financial institutions. So I'll just read a couple of these. On the far left here, number 1, Mr. Jones, your balance is $1,592.19. Your total due is $130.60, and $84.80 of this is past due. Are you able to pay that? There's a lot of confusion. There needs to be more clarity. It needs to be more crisp. Number 3, this one's interesting. Can I do something to start paying on the past due amount, the customer said. The response was, you should just go back to the provider and talk to them. Number 3 here is an example of where the account was recourse back to the provider of the service and the customer called the collections department to pay, but was told essentially that they couldn't take the payment. The customer was frustrated and the call ended, and it was really a missed opportunity. Now, number 2 and number 5, those are great examples of successful interactions. So again, there's a lot of mixed things that are going on when we are working with a client, and we help them to experience a more consistent approach to humanize the conversation. And on the next slide here, kind of recaps how you can improve your results. So you may think that your call model is good and doing well because your agents are adhering, but have you listened to those calls from the perspective of the customer and their experience? So how are you challenging the call model flow for your institution to maximize total business performance? Here's another great success story for a top 50 bank that we worked with last year. This client's call model was heavily focused on compliance, but lacked empathy. And this resulted in a poor customer experience and losses that really could have been avoided. So we enhanced their call model. We infused empathy and aligned the model with their own customer experience vision. Again, we developed the custom training materials, we facilitated the entire training program, and we conducted ongoing call calibration sessions to ensure adherence and that the performance results were aligned. And after a few short months, they achieved a level of 39% improvement in promise to pay conversion, and they've been maintaining that new level. We're thrilled and proud of how well that team adapted and shifted their focus to the customer. So as we approach the end of today's webinar, we discussed many areas of transformation today, and we hope that it really hasn't overwhelmed you. Transformation isn't accomplished overnight, and our engagement with financial institutions are focused from a partnership perspective. We support the recommendations we provide with on-the-ground interaction and deep results monitoring. And our goal ultimately is to help our clients excel. So I promised you all a great offer at the beginning of this webinar, and we have an exclusive complimentary workshop to share with you today. We're offering our strategy workshop completely free with a 100% no strings attached commitment. We believe that there's a desire in every collection shop, but there's always one or more reasons why you can't progress towards the vision. Our workshop's designed to have focused discussions on your current process, and we will share strategies with you that you can use to imagine a future that improves your total business performance. So by spending a few hours with us, we'll discuss different perspectives that perhaps will allow you to mitigate additional losses and achieve a brighter outlook for 2022 and beyond. This slide gives you an idea of the complimentary workshop that we're offering to everyone today. What will, again, further experience during the strategy workshop, as well as the workshop deliverables. At the close of the session, you receive an action plan of what we've identified as part of the discussion. And I hope that you'll all take advantage of this offer. The feedback that we receive from these strategy sessions is so rewarding, and every client has walked away with ideas that they can implement. I just want to share one final success story before we launch into Q&A. Here's a top bank that took us up on our offer, and they extended our engagement into a roadmap design effort, a design that mapped out their entire future state transformation for people, for process, and technology. And you'll see in the lower right, the potential annual portfolio loss improvement is targeted to be a 44% annual improvement. It's just incredible. They're on track to have a record-breaking loss performance year in 2022. So I appreciate your attention thus far. And we're now going to move into our questions and answers segment. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Eugene.
Great, thanks, Byron. So as Byron said, we are now going to open it up to questions that have come in through the questions box. If you still have a question, feel free to drop it in the, again, the questions box. All right, we will kind of start in order as they came in. The first question is, I'm worried that segmentation of customers could be considered disparate treatment. How do you avoid that?
I can take that one, Eugene. Great question. Disparate treatment really happens when you treat your customers differently. And so segmentation, it really also involves checks and balances. So if your customers are collectible, meaning that they're not in the process of filing bankruptcy, as an example, we help you ensure that no populations are left out. The segmentation, again, provides benefits to your customers as well. Payment reminders, delayed calling due to their payment patterns, etc. So as it relates to how you treat your customers, your offers of hardship solutions and repayment options, those must be consistent and really should be made to all of your segmentations. So as part of the work that we do with clients, though, we also partner very closely with their legal and compliance teams as well. So I hope that answers your question around that risk.
Great, thank you. The second question that came in, are you finding interest in providers of buy now, pay later products?
Yeah, absolutely. We just had someone reach out to us just last week on this with a buy now, pay later. So absolutely, we're hearing this. This is really an incredible available short-term loan product that's really growing immensely. And it really helped a lot of retailers achieve a greater point of sale total. The challenge for these servicers of the products are really ensuring that the cost of servicing the loan in a delinquent scenario doesn't exceed the entire balance. So ensuring that they have a very low cost of service and the right amount of digital channels in practice is really of great interest for them.
Great, thank you. Next question. Thank you for the material you presented. How long does a typical collections transformation take?
I'll step in on that one, Eugene. So improving collections, we've talked this whole webinar. It typically requires technology modernization as well as culture changes and business process changes. So the decision each organization needs to make is whether these changes really should be incremental or what we would call transformational. And we see three basic approaches to the transformation: sort of an IT modernization approach, a best practices approach, and a full-blown organizational transformational approach. The IT modernization really refers to approaches that are characterized by systems optimization or modernization or replacement, and they require minimal, or they usually have minimal process engineering associated with them. Business disruption is minimal and benefits are focused on cost takeout, really. Costs are relatively low in comparison with the other two approaches, and because of workarounds and shadow systems, it's really a learn as you go approach. IT modernization approaches can take anywhere from 3 to 9 months, depending upon the scope of the platforms being addressed. A best practices approach really focuses on core process improvement with technology driving improvement potential. The benefits are typically greater than just an IT modernization approach, but business disruption is also a little bit greater. Best practice transformation requires a more managed approach, typically with a third-party assistance and the identification of key users or champions to drive success. Best practices approaches can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months, again, depending upon the scope of functions under consideration. And a full organizational transformation that really addresses people, process, and technology focuses on broad integrated process improvement and technology enablement. And it's aligned with the overall business strategy of the organization and typically results in significantly greater improvement than the other approaches. We've seen typically 10 times greater improvement. But the business disruption is significant. It's more of a top-down approach than the others, with key executives driving success. Organizational transformations can take anywhere from 9 to 18 months, again, typically with third-party assistance.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Next question: how do personas map into journey science? How is segmentation different than journey science?
That's a good question, because it can be confusing. Personas and segmentation are inputs into journey science. So personas are an input into the overall journey science work effort. Remember, journey science enhances personas with ongoing customer research, feedback, data, and more sophisticated data analytics to make them more dynamic and evolutionary over time, and to get a better understanding of customers than just personas alone. Journey science is a way to better understand the customers in each of your collection segments. You're probably not going to, nor should you, segment the delinquent population in the same manner as your marketing department does. So segmentation based on risk, days past due, or amounts past due do still make sense. But no matter how you segment your delinquent customer base, each segment will be made up of different types of customers, different personas. Journey science allows you to understand the sub-segments better, so you can treat each individual customer in a much more personalized and human fashion.
Great. Thank you, Scott. So at the moment, we don't have any other questions. If you do have another question, feel free to drop it in the chat box. We'll give it another 15 seconds or so to see if anything else comes in. Okay, I think right now, I think it's a good time to close out this session. As a reminder, we will send out the recording in the next 2 business days, so please look out for that. If you do have questions, you can email them directly to Scott and Byron. Their contact information is in the beginning of this presentation, so feel free to glance at that when you receive it. We want to thank you for attending today's presentation. We hope you found it informative, and we look forward to you joining future webinars as well. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Brian, for attending.
Thank you, and thanks everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eugene.